normally do not do this without the physical book. I printed these out, but we're so far behind on the specs. They should have printed those several days ago.
Would you like me to?
Well, I'd love to see that advertisement for bid and see why the fusion.
I thought that it was people could come to either location.
For the delivery of their bid.
No, it says it for the site visit. Then it says the delivery of bid is to Avtech Parkway. But it says optional for the site visit.
Okay, I'll have to go look at that language.
Yeah, we'll have to make that more clear. I know this is our first.
Yeah, this is our first
time
attempt at
trying to-
doing a Zoom, especially since you guys are up there in the mountains with the snow. Was one of the reasons we went this route, was so people wouldn't feel like they could get stuck up there with them closing the freeway.
He's from Reading too.
Yeah, but
Sorry about that.
no, Muriel said there were several that left, came up there,
They're just gonna do Zoom or?
I guess. The key thing is that we have this recorded, so it's gonna go on the CIP list, so.
Admit Michael.
Oh, I thought it was gonna allow. I thought it just automatically admitted everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Keith Krantz, the project engineer for this project with PACE. It's the first time we've tried to do, or I've tried to do a Zoom pre-bid. Sounds like I mucked up the language on so there's some confusion with some people, but we'll go ahead and go forward here in a little bit. If those of you that have gone through the Zoom process know that if they haven't done it before, it may take a couple of minutes for them to get their information to Zoom and then get logged in. So we'll go a couple more minutes here before I get started in case somebody tried to jump in right at 2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
Just me.
At this point, it's just you, Paige, and I, yeah.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are
Me
you?
too. I'm good.
David wants in, good.
I'm assuming this is a sign up sheet.
Yep, that's for you, and I knew that at least you, maybe a couple others would come in, so I'd give you that.
Muriel have a sign-in sheet that she has.
No, but that's something that we'll need to do. She'll need to get their name and
Yeah, you got that, Muriel?
how you been doing, Dale? Good. Good. Ariel, those that are there in your office, can you get some kind of a sign up name,
I think she is. yeah.
company? I got all that. Okay, great. Thanks.
That's my note taking thing. I'm gonna sign in sheet here.
Perfect.
This is pre-bid.
Well, we'll have everybody that's on the Zoom conference on a sign up list, and then we'll include those that are at City Hall or here in that. I guess we can probably get started. I don't know, somebody may jump in here as we go, but I'll go ahead and get get this started. Again, I'm Keith Krantz, project engineer for this water project for the city of Mount Shasta, the Pine Street Area Water Improvement Project. I'm going to let the people that are here introduce themselves, since you guys are probably seeing all of us.
I'm Paige Cyber. I'm one of the designers on the project.
I'm Dale Cox with White Hawk Construction.
All right. And we'll go ahead and jump in on this. I appreciate everybody hopping in on this. First time that I've done this. Appears there was some confusion maybe on the advertisement for bid language. But we're going to put up, if you talk to anybody that for some reason got confused, didn't hook in or whatever, this whole thing is being recorded and we'll put that up on CIP list along with the first addendum. And we'll talk about that towards the end of my stuff here. I'm going to go through just some broad stuff first, then some more specific project stuff that I think is important that everybody knows. Turn it over to the city staff for any comments they may have, and then we'll take questions and either answer them right now or answer them in the first addendum when it comes out. Due to the holidays and all, we're off here tomorrow and Friday, so it'll probably be Monday or Tuesday before we can get it up to CIP list. But so I'll just go ahead and jump in so that everybody's clear. At this point, the
Keith,
Lost Keith's audio.
lost your audio, Keith.
Oh, it must mute all of them. So sorry.
okay, there we go. Am I back on?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought I just muted one of them.
No, I think they are all on.
So sorry. And I also didn't click anything, so I thought it didn't turn off. I was like, oh, I won't do it.
We got all the new fancy electronics. We just don't understand how they all work yet. Okay, so I'll start back over real quick. We're going over this Pine Street Area Water Improvement Project for the city of Mount Shasta, just to give some broad overviews and then some specific things that I think are important for all the contractors to be aware of about the project. And at the end, we'll take any questions you have, answer them if we know the answer right now. If not, we'll answer them when we release the first addendum. Hopefully that will probably be early next week. As I was saying, we're off tomorrow and Friday, so we may not be able to get to it until Monday or Tuesday. Again, a lot of this is a little bit new. This is supposed to be being recorded, so we'll get that linked up to CIP list so people can watch it. So first thing, a little bit like the pre-bid here, the bid opening date right now is February 8th at 2 o'clock. All bids have to be have been delivered either to the City Hall, Mount Shasta City Hall, or here to Pace Engineering by 2 o'clock to be valid. We will then do a Zoom opening of those and announce them publicly, and then we'll get into how it's awarded, but that's the process we're going to do. I'm the project manager. Keith Krantz, Paige Seibert's been the project engineer on this project. We'll be the two go-to people mostly on the engineering side. David Torres is on this call right now for the city. He'll end up being kind of the city field liaison. He's the interim public works director right now. To go through a few things that are specific about this project. This is funded by CDBG, and therefore there are some requirements we need to make sure everybody's aware of and follow through on. They are very diligent on their MeBee-Weeby requirements. We have provided information in there that I think most everybody would be able to end up, following and making sure you're doing your due diligence per their criteria. CDBG also has a more of a low income and some and potentially racial aspect to who's hired and so on. Those are their section 3 requirements. We have in attachment B, a section 3 information sheet that they provide that can clarify what is section 3, what isn't. And for your, hopefully for your help on those. The bid package forms that we'll talk about briefly here in just a minute need to be submitted with the bid. Those are the ones that are in that section. I think it's the pages 400s through the low 500s. We'll get to that in a minute. And then there's attachment that's the CDBG program labor compliance forms. Those forms you probably ought to fill out as you're going through this process, but if you get the notice of award, they are due within 10 days of getting that notice of award. So they're kind of a secondary set of forms. The scope of work, as in the advertisement for bid, is for the total project. That's assuming that all of the additive alternatives were awarded. And so a little background on this project. This is a grant that was applied for 2 years ago, basically, and costs have gone up rather significantly since then. So that's one of the reasons we have additive items in there. The grant will not probably cover the whole project. And so we'll talk about how it's being awarded because of that. Couple other things, permits, licensings, just to make sure everybody's clear on this. You obviously have to have your OSHA stuff. This only requires an erosion control plan. It's small enough work area that that's all that's required, no SWIP. You do need to get a City of Mount Shasta business license if you do not have one already. The bid documents, as I mentioned, I'm not going to go through all of them, but that bid package, and I have an agenda that we will provide you with in the addendum, but basically it's all the normal stuff that we have with public works projects until we get down about, I don't know, it's about the 12th form down, and you'll see there in there, there's bidders proposed section 3 contractors and subcontractors, and then there's bidders section 3 proposed hires, section 3 assurances. There's about 6 section 3 forms that CDBG requires with your bid. So they need to be included with your bid. There's also form number 4 that is a contractor selected disadvantaged business enterprises form that's also required with your bid. Because as I said, this was put out and with a maximum grant, the project was kind of built around that without expecting the inflation we've had the last couple of years. We've had to break the project up into sections, and we have 3 additive items, but the award is going to be to the lowest bidder on the total base bid amount. Okay, not including any of the additive items. So just be aware of that. The project manual, we had to make a quick change on that right before we went out last week because CDBG requires additive items if you think you're not going to be able to award the whole thing. So we had to make some changes. Unfortunately, the advertisement for bid is incorrect. Everything else in the project manual is. The advertisement for bid implied that we were including the additive items in that award, and that's not correct. That'll be corrected in the addendum. But I wanted to verbalize that too. So the award will be to the lowest bidder based on the total base bid amount. Tentative schedule opening, like I said, at 2 o'clock, February 8th. The notice of award should be in February, although CDBG, I believe, and Mariel may correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they have to review and approve the bids before we can put it to City Council. And I believe that's the case with CDBG. Is that correct?
As far as I know, that's correct.
Yeah. So I'm putting down notice of award as February. I don't know how long it'll take for a turnaround from CDBG to approve the bid, the lowest bid recommended award. I'm expecting construction to start early to mid-May. We all know that we're all kind of stuck with the getting the acquisition of materials on site. So that's just an estimate. The contract, it will be for 150 calendar days plus 30 more for a total of 180. It is a prevailing wage project, Davis-Bacon and state prevailing wages, whichever is the higher is what rules. Field observation is going to be done by PACE or city representatives. And the construction overview, I've got a variety of more specific things about the project that we'll go through here. First, staging areas. Storage area is available at the Roseburg, the old Roseburg Mill facility for you to be able to store your materials. There's not anything that the city owns that's closer. City does not have a disposal site. That's going to be your responsibility to dispose of the spoils. I have not investigated, but I know my project that I have going in Dunsmuir, there was a person up there in Mount Shasta that was open to taking their spoils. So that may be available and we can look into that, but I don't know that for certain.
Keith, sorry to interrupt. Spoils, do you mean that the soil that's dug up?
Yes.
I know that one of the things, City of Mount Shasta may be able to take that because if it's determined that that soil is, so to speak, clean soil, we can use it for backfill in our brownfield projects, which is on the Roseburg property.
Okay.
So we may be able to take that and use that for backfill where they're taking out the hazardous waste on the Roseburg property, which we would want to do.
Sure. Can
Muriel, if I could interject,
Sure.
we have a lot of surplus soil already at Roseburg.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are 2 brownfield projects starting around mid-May
Okay.
at the site where they're going to be removing hazardous waste, and they're going to need to use the fill that's already there, plus any that we may get out of this project.
Okay, great.
Just food for thought. We can talk about it later.
Yep. We'll try to estimate quantities and whatnot.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll try to in the first addendum, or it might be a later one, we'll put in if we can clarify that we're not going to be able to take all of your spoils. We'll clarify the projected amount that they would be able to take and let you guys know. But anything they couldn't take there will be on your guys' responsibility to find a place to put it. Water is going to be available at fire hydrants identified by the city staff. They'll provide you a meter to just keep track of the total number, assuming that you're being diligent with it. Materials on hand. So if you take a look at the bid item sheet, I have started to put into my projects, and I know we've done it on a couple of others, a materials on hand lump sum item. Basically, the way that works is if you want to get paid per the definition for materials on hand when they arrive and have been reviewed with your, with your invoices and stuff, you need to put the dollar amount in that spot on your bid sheet. If you don't want to get materials on hand compensated, which sometimes you don't, that's fine. You don't have to put anything, just put a 0. And that's fine. But this is a way that we're going to go forward. Probably a couple of funding agencies, not CDBG, but a couple of other funding agencies are really making it hard to calculate materials on hand. So this is a way we can kind of make it easier. It's different for a lot of you, but the difference is probably, the way I see it, should be less work, because you've got to take whatever your material costs that you're getting from your supplier and then putting it into your work effort, dollars per foot of pipe or whatever. In this case, you don't need it. Just don't even include it. It just goes in your materials on hand item for that. For that bid section. The reason I say that is we have 3 additive items plus the base bid. So I have a different materials on hand for each one. One of the things that's different on this project, I do not know how CDBG has gotten by with this for so long, but they are still non-AIS requiring of materials. So that is a big savings for everybody and kind of gets us back to the way it was 4 or 5 years ago in some respects. There is no geotechnical report on this. Soils are unclassified. It being a water project, we're not real deep. We've had a sewer project 2 years ago that went pretty much paralleling almost all of the water that we're going to put in on Alma Street and down on Cedar. We did not do any work on Pine Street. And the observations were a couple of things for everybody to be aware of. The soil itself was pretty much a dark, organically kind of soil. They were using a shield. They're a lot deeper than we were when they did the sewer project. But generally, the trenches held up overall. There was not really any cobble. There was some groundwater. They started in mid-June down on Cedar Street. There was some groundwater, but it was moderately deep. I would expect in May that you're going to get groundwater that you're going to have to deal with. This is a generally wet area. One thing to be aware of that we did discover on Cedar Street and Alma for one block up, well, actually a little further up Alma Street, there was a previous sewer project. If you look at the plans, you'll see 2 sewer mains near the elementary school on Cedar Street and going up Alma. They backfilled that earlier sewer system with pea gravel. That's the laterals and the mains. We shouldn't, I don't think, cross the main, maybe in one spot, but we will cross the laterals. Just be aware when you hit that pea gravel, it's going to run in. You need to include the rehabilitation for a few feet on each side of your trench and paving in your bid. Because I think I had made that pretty clear on the notes. That's something to expect. Hopefully it won't be too much since we're not going to be real deep. It was a big problem with the 8-foot, 9-foot deep sewer trench. Potholing needs to be done minimum 5 working days prior to construction to allow adjustments if they're needed in the field. The locations of these utilities in many cases are schematic and we don't know the exact depths. So please be aware that needs to be done. In some locations, we called out 10 working days because some utility crossings may be really critical to give more time to make an adjustment before you get close to there in your construction. It's critical to limit the water service shutdowns in order, and the order of tie-ins are going to require the city staff approval. Just so you're aware, a lot of this project has to do with providing significantly more water flow over to the hospital and almost all the medical facilities in the town. This is the only route they get water, is from Ivy Street north on Pine, which means we will be putting the hospital and the medical facilities out of water. I'm estimating a minimum of twice. It matters how you schedule your tie-ins and stuff. Those are going to have to be done at night. And they need to be coordinated, obviously, with a lot of people. So those will be something that you need to put some effort in on. A couple of other things, water meter box relocations, just to be clear. The locations of the meter boxes and meters were put in a few years ago wherever they could find the water services. Most of the residents did not have shutoffs and things. Now that we're putting new services in, we're putting them into a more appropriate spot in some locations. So that's what water meter and box relocation is. Use the same box, use the same meter, but you're moving it to the new location and then connecting back to the existing service. We do have, I believe, 7 water service reroutes in the whole project if everything was done. Those are because right now they currently are getting fed from alleys that we want to abandon the water line in. And so just be aware, We have approximate footages on those. Those are the only section, in my opinion, that the surface is not easily viewable now with the snow. I got kind of spoiled the last 4 or 5 years where this time of year, you wait a couple of weeks and there wouldn't be snow on the ground up there in Mount Shasta. It looks like this winter is not going to be that way. Most of the surface was grass in these yards. And we have an estimate only because there's probably going to be a variety of ways of reconnecting these people. And that'll be up to the contractor, city staff, and the homeowners and the engineers to how to do it. Some of them, it may be easier to hire a certified plumber to just go in and put a new pipe out the front of the house. And all of a sudden, rather than putting 130 feet of water service line in, you're putting 25. So those will be, that's why their build is each, because there's a variety of ways of doing them. Writing entries will be coordinated by city staff, but the contractor has got to communicate with them ahead of time so that they and the residents know when they're going to be working in their yards. I had a question about system disinfection, and this is a non-chlorinated system. It's the same as Dunsmuir, Weed, and Mount Shasta. You will generally pass without too much trouble as long as you keep your pipe clean. If you get a lot of dust and stuff in it, sometimes you can fail several tests and you have to flush and flush and flush. So it's really important that you make sure your crew understand that you got to keep it clean. It's not a chlorinated system. So once you have chlorinated your pipe and you flush it out, if there's still residue in there, it's going to pop because it is such clean water that's in the lines. I have some stuff about public and emergency service notification. You've got the elementary school at the end of Alma Street, and you've got the hospital and all the medical buildings down Pine. So it's going to be the contractor's responsibility to make sure that everybody is notified. Anytime there's going to be closures, we're going to require one-way traffic control at all times, except in a few situations. They have to have city and engineers approval, and they may likely will require, if we're going to shut down something, you'll probably have to do the work at night. My guess would be crossing Mount Shasta Boulevard at Alma would be one of those. The Pine Street and Alma Street intersection would likely also be one that potentially will need to have a nighttime effort and a shutdown of the block. We might be able to get through Pine Street in Alma without doing that. But one other thing, school, there is a significant amount of traffic when school is going on the first block of Cedar and Alma Street. So you should be planning to try to do those areas outside of school sessions. I think most of this project will probably be done outside of the school year, but that's just something to be aware of as you're kind of doing your planning. Let's see, as I said, we're going to upload all of this to CIP list along with addendum 1 and including a recording of this video. So if you got anything that you would like answered that we don't cover in this meeting here in a second, I'm going to open up the question and answers after I let the city staff talk. Then we can get those included. We will have obviously at least a second addendum 10 days before the bid opening for the Davis-Bacon wage stuff. The last day to ask questions to be answered by addendum will be 5 o'clock on the 31st of January. So the last day of January. So that way I have time, we have time to put it together and we'll issue it by the 4th of February. It gives you 4 or 5 days before the bid opening to take that answer and adjust your bid accordingly. With that, I'm going to first turn it over to Muriel. Do you have anything to add from the city's perspective?
I do not.
Great. How about you, David?
Nope, I do not.
Okay. All the contractors that we have here, including Dale, do you guys have any questions that you'd like us to answer at this point?
There's no cost on the hydrant meter.
No, the hydrant meter, assuming you're being diligent with the use of the water, not just wasting it, the city is not charging for the usage of the water or the meter.
Would you like each of the contractors to type in the chat where they're from, or do you know all their names?
They should have that, I believe, in there when they signed up, I think.
Okay, I'm not certain about
Um,
that.
I'm not sure. I haven't done that before. Paige just requested in the chat for everybody that's logged in to state their name and where they're from, because we're not sure that that's going to show up on our recording. We want to have that on the sign-in sheet.
I do believe I will receive your name and your email, but I'm not sure where each of you are from, so.
Okay. So if you could do that before you check out, each of you that are zoomed in, if you could just go into the chat and just put your name and where you're from, what firm you're with, would be great.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, everybody, for attending, and please feel free to get a hold of Paige or I here at Pace with questions that come up. We'll have this first addendum out and get that to you guys next week is the plan. We have quite a bit of time before the bid opening, so take a look at this stuff. I know with the holidays and the weather and everything, it's going to be a little hard for a week or two here to get everybody back on your normal schedule. So anyway, thanks again. Appreciate it. I'm going to leave this open for a little bit until everybody's been able to put down on the chat what company they're with. And you don't need to. So actually, we might do that. Paige, you.
Fill it out on.
Yeah, you want to go and put Dale's info on there? That might be easier. And then we have it all in one spot.
Well, I don't know that this chat saves, so I was actually recording.
Oh, you're writing them down?
So I might actually write it down here. And I believe they can leave the Zoom call whenever, like anybody.
Yeah, they can leave, they've already, some of them left. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Have great holidays.
You too.
Thanks, Keith.
All right. Thank you guys very much. This is something you might be interested in. You can grab this. Yeah.
All right, well, I
Copies
appreciate
of
My
this
girl
stuff.
does those for me. She has to drop them off at the stove and LC drop.
Oh, okay.
A couple of days.
Right. Yeah, no, go ahead and take those.
only getting colder, so.
To see.
Yeah, and the core project is likely what's going to be able to be afforded. The base bid.
Off the curbs and on Pine Street,
How far what?
off the curb, because it's a wide street.
Well, it's not real wide at the beginning, and then it really widens out. We are trying to squeeze between the existing water and there's concrete. The old road was concrete.
Highway, yeah.
So we're off, I want to say where it's real wide, we're about 9 feet off the edge because there's the existing water mains between it.
Probably get 2 lanes.
And then it gets over to, there's going to be no issue with your traffic control. It's just you can just cone 2 lanes and it's not an issue at all.
And that last, 2 blocks?
Yeah, the last 2 blocks get more narrow. You're probably going to need to do one-way traffic control, but when Cox and Cox did that sewer, they didn't go on those blocks, but they did going up Alma, which is about the same width, I think. And they were able to keep 2-way traffic most of the time when they were working, and they were going down more the middle.
Yeah.
They kind of made an island with the cones. So I'm thinking we're being off to the north side on Alma, being off to the west side of Pine. I think that with some work, probably can cone most of it. The intersection itself is gonna be a mess. That one's gonna be a mess. And then, of course, Mount Shasta Boulevard. But when they did the sewer, they just did it at night. Detoured all the way around, closed both Alma and Mount Shasta Boulevard, detoured around, and it worked great.
Yeah.
You were able to get in there, get your work done and get out. So there's 3 or 4 nighttime probably efforts that are gonna be needed. A lot of the problem is, I know one of the places that they've, we kind of extended the base bid portion because the city's running into some real problems on a couple of blocks there right by the elementary school. And one of them, they can't shut off without shutting the hospital off. It's like 5 blocks away. So that's why I said, I assume we're gonna have at least 2 shutdowns of the hospital. One of them where we tie into the existing system on the north side of the hospital. And then the other one will be when we tie over at some point, because right now the water comes down Ivy. I don't know if you remember where that is, but it comes down Ivy and it comes down Lake. That's the only 2 routes that come in. So we're moving because that line coming Ivy is bad. It's got a leak. It's got some leak problems and stuff. We're moving to a big 12-inch line coming down Alma. We're going to abandon that line in Ivy. So when we do that switch over, that's going to probably require the hospital to be off.
We can get water.
Yeah.
Off.
So, but anyway, yeah, I'd love for you to do this job. I know you don't go to the higher dollar ones much, but anymore materials are so much bigger cost. You can't do much without going into that range. And there's a bunch of 12-inch on the base project, basically from Chestnut all the way down Alma, turn down Pine past the hospital. That's all 12-inch. So that's a lot of your cost right there.
I'll weed it up quick.
Yeah. And then there's a PRV on that. So you take that
What was
section.
the part, PRVs, all additives, or were they?
No, one's an additive, one's base. Yeah. The base one is the one on Alma right in front of the Forest Service building that we're putting in.
Yeah.
So, and then we'll abandon, there's a PRV over in Ivy. That's part of that base bid that's being abandoned. So anyway, but
Yeah, I'll dig into it to see.
all right,
How
well,
much snow's up there? Have you been up there recently?
I believe there's over a foot on the ground right now and they're supposed,
Yeah,
they're supposed to get, well, they were gonna get 3.5 feet, but they keep changing. I think it's down to about 2 feet over the next 4 or 5 days. So there's a lot. And I mentioned it briefly. There was a concern about, well, wait a second, we don't have walkthrough. And well, everything in this job is from the street. You can see it. It's right there, even with some snow. We've worked pretty hard to try to go and describe all of the potential ground issues, I guess I'll call it, that are there. I mentioned the reroutes. That's one where we may have to get some change orders. I don't know, because
Yeah, you don't know what.
that I didn't know. We don't know for sure how far back. We estimated the city staff went out with the homeowner and they kind of go, okay, well, it looks like it's coming from the back of the house to feed it now. We're going to come out from the street. So you're going to connect here. It's about this many feet. At least half of them are just grass
Yeah.
with a couple of trees floating around that could be an issue.
Around the house and rerouting the line.
Well, that was the way we quote unquote designed it. To be honest on those, they're almost all, I think they're all elevated. My experience in Quincy is that it may be just easier and cheaper to hire a plumber to come in and just put a new kick out right out from under the house, straight out, and you tie in there and you got 30 feet out to the street and you just cut it off on the backside and everything's great.
Are those included as items or?
They're each. I just made them as each because I don't know what people are going to do. Each one's so different. I could have bid them out separately, but I already got 700 bid items, and I didn't want to do that. I cut corners on a lot of things, try to lower. Gosh, what did we have when we had bid items at one point?
well, I don't know, it's fluctuated because of the additives. We didn't
Yeah,
start with additives.
even without the additives, we had
I
75.
like items, so.
Well, I do, but I don't like too many of them. Too many of them just gets to be, it does get to be a problem. I mean, everything's clear, you've described every kind of work that you're gonna have out there pretty much. You got a price on it, but I know there's contracts that won't even bid on them if there's too many. So, and you have a better chance of having somebody screw the numbers up. Fortunately, I haven't had that as a big issue yet, but
Yeah, you get the other out though. I was looking at the meter job and sometime 2,000 meters.
well, sweet.
Yeah.
How good is it? What's the description on it?
Oh, it's terrible.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, there's
What job is it?
some Fort Bragg.